Today, we're doing something a bit different, really looking at political language itself.
Right.
We're not wading through, massive policy papers this time. Instead, we've got this specific excerpt from a formal eulogy for the Kenyan leader, Raila Odinga.
And that's the interesting part. It's how someone's legacy gets defined officially at the end. This eulogy, it's like a concentrated version, a high-level summary.
Exactly. It's the ultimate mission statement almost.
Yeah, so we're dissecting the language used. What core ideas did the author want the world to remember about him?
So that's our mission for you today. Unpacking these specific, very carefully chosen words, we want to see why they label him a true champion of democracy and how this paints him as, well, a global model.
It's about digging into the construction of his political character, the values he's meant to represent, not just for Kenya, but universally.
Okay, let's dive in. The foundation first. When you build that champion of democracy idea, the source immediately grounds him in history. What's that very first detail they use?
The first anchor point is calling him a child of independence.
A child of independence.
Yeah, and that's not just biography. It's a powerful rhetorical move. It connects his personal story directly to Kenya's birth as a self-governing nation.
So it sort of gives his later actions a historical weight right from the start.
Precisely. It suggests his motivations are deeply rooted, part of Kenya's own story. It adds legitimacy.
Right, it's like saying this wasn't just a job for him, it was almost inherent. And that sets up the next point, doesn't it, about how long he kept at it?
It does. The text makes a big deal of the fact that he endured decades of struggle and sacrifice. Decades.
That word endured is strong, too.
It really is. It highlights resilience, an unwavering commitment over a very long time, no matter the personal cost or the political wins.
And the source is quite specific about what this struggle was for, isn't it? It wasn't just a power struggle.
No, and that's crucial. It explicitly states it was for the broader cause of freedom and self-governance in Kenya.
So positioning it as bigger than himself.
Exactly. And that leads directly to what I think is the linchpin of this whole characterization. The text says he was seen to put the interests of his country ahead of his own ambitions.
Okay, let's pause on that phrase because in this kind of formal tribute, saying someone put country ahead of ambition, that's huge praise, isn't it?
It's perhaps the highest praise in this context. It implies he made choices against his own potential gain, stepping back, or sacrificing power for the sake of the nation.
It suggests a kind of selflessness that, let's be honest, is often contrasted with the usual narrative of political ambition.
Right. Now, whether one can prove that internal motivation is always tricky, but the author chose to include that specific claim. That choice tells us how they want him to be defined, by perceived selflessness.
It differentiates him, rhetorically at least, from just being another powerful figure seeking the top job. The emphasis is on the sacrifice itself.
Yes. If the story ended with him simply winning the presidency after all that, this eulogy would have a different feel. But defining him by the struggle and the sacrifice for the country, that's what solidifies this principled champion idea.
So, in this telling, victory isn't just about reaching the summit.
No, victory here is defined as upholding the cause, enduring the fight for decades, and prioritizing the nation. That's the narrative frame.
Okay, so we had long struggle, the sacrifice for country, but then the eulogy shifts, right? It gets into something more complex, a specific choice he made later on.
It does. This is where we move from the fighter narrative to something more like a statesman narrative. The key phrase is his willingness to choose peaceful reconciliation.
And they don't just say he chose it. They add that phrase.
Like few other leaders anywhere.
Right. That's putting him on a global pedestal. Why is that specific act, peaceful reconciliation, framed as so rare and important?
Well, think about it. After decades of really intense, often bitter political battles, reconciliation usually involves compromise. Big compromises.
Which can look like weakness or even betrayal to your supporters.
Exactly. For many leaders, moving from fierce opposition to working with former rivals is politically dangerous. It risks alienating your base, looking like you've given up on your principles.
But the source anticipates that criticism, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It adds that crucial qualifier.
It does. It immediately follows up by saying this reconciliation happened without compromising his core values.
Okay, that's the tension. Reconciliation, yes, but not at any price. The core beliefs remained intact.
And that's really the central argument of this part of the eulogy, this idea that you can hold firm to fundamental democratic principles, freedom, self-governance, fairness, but still find a way to work constructively with those you fought against.
It's like the difference between just making a deal and actually building something new together on a shared foundation.
That's a great way to put it. You find common ground, but you don't tear down the essential structure of your own beliefs to do it.
Which is why they stress it's so unique.
Right. It suggests he saw his core values as non-negotiable, but the relationship with the opposition as something that could be changed, could be reformed. That ability to bridge divides, to lower the political temperature without sacrificing your fundamental integrity, that's incredibly hard.
Especially, in today's world where politics often feels so polarized, where taking a hard line is often rewarded and compromise looks weak. This source is flipping that script.
It really is. It's reframing principled reconciliation not as weakness, but as the ultimate sign of strength and democratic maturity.
So a true champion isn't just defined by how hard they fight, but by their wisdom in knowing when and how to pivot towards unity while still holding on to those core democratic ideals.
And the contrast they build is striking. He starts as this child of independence, endures decades of struggle, a lifetime fighter. But the ultimate praise is for choosing peace later on, for showing this rare ability to temper that long fight. It's presented almost as a transformation, and that's his key contribution.
Okay, so connecting this character portrait to the wider world. The eulogy explicitly says his life is a lesson beyond Kenya's borders.
Yes, it makes the direct claim that Raila Odinga set an example not just for Kenyans, but also across Africa and around the world.
And the elements that make up that example are the ones we've just discussed.
Exactly. The longevity of commitment, the putting country before self, and crucially, this capacity for principled reconciliation. That combination is presented as an exportable model.
So it's not just a local tribute. It's framed as a potential blueprint for leadership elsewhere.
Precisely. The implication is that any nation dealing with deep political divides, where competition risks boiling over into something worse, can look at this particular path, this methodology.
The methodology? Prioritizing country? Choosing principled peace over continued conflict.
Yeah.
That's the global takeaway they're pushing?
Yes. It suggests a different definition of democratic success. It's not just about winning the election or the argument. It's about embodying a kind of democratic maturity that helps stabilize the nation for the long haul.
And then bringing it right back to the source text itself, there's that final personal touch. It adds a different kind of weight.
Right. The specific mention that the author and his wife send their deepest condolences to his family and to the people of Kenya.
Why include that personal note right at the end of this high-level political assessment?
It serves a really important function, I think. It grounds all the high praise. It signals that this isn't just diplomatic formality, it's a genuine recognition of loss, felt personally.
So it connects the abstract political virtues back to the human cost.
Yes, it tells the family and the Kenyan people that leaders on the world stage understood the sacrifice involved in the life that was just described. The political praise gains credibility from that personal expression of sympathy.
It creates a kind of synergy. The political legacy defined by actions, validated by global figures, and then humanized by this shared sense of loss.
It's the final touch on this carefully constructed definition of his legacy.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, for you listening, the source material really boils down Odinga's legacy, as presented here, to two main pillars. First, that relentless, decades-long fight for self-governance.
Rooted in being that child of independence.
Right. And second, this rare ability for peaceful reconciliation. But crucially, reconciliation that didn't compromise his core beliefs. He's shown as someone who could fight harder than almost anyone, but also knew when and how to build bridges on principle.
And that second pillar, that principled reconciliation, leaves us with our final thought to chew on. This eulogy places such intense focus on sacrifice, the long struggle, and choosing peace without compromising values. It sets an incredibly high bar.
Almost demanding, you could say.
Yeah. So the question is, what kind of pressure does this expectation, this focus on selflessness and principled compromise, put on democratic leaders today and in the future everywhere? Does it create a new, perhaps almost impossible standard for legitimacy in political systems that are inherently competitive and, frankly, ambitious?
That's definitely something to think about.